I don't typically talk about wrestling. I've just only recently started to get back into wrestling in regards to the Bloodline, Roman Reigns, Rhea Ripley, Jey Uso, all of them. Maybe like a year ago, I started seriously watching it again. And even before then, I didn't like Hulk Hogan. More or less because a lot of the stars that I look up to, like in the form of Stone Cold Steve Austin, Undertaker, Sting, shit, even some of the people who work behind the scenes, like Eric Bischoff, Teddy Long, all of these people that have had positions in multiple wrestling organizations, WWE, WWF, Paul Heyman in regards to ECW before he started doing stuff with WWE, all of them have always come out and said the exact same shit, which is that Hulk Hogan is a fucking asshole. And I never got on the whole Hulkamania brother like bandwagon. It really didn't mean anything to me. I had multiple other people that I love. I've mentioned a few. Sting, Macho Man Randy Savage, The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, the Dudley Boys, the Hardy Boys. Like there are so many great heroes that existed in my era of wrestling, which was the 90s, that I never had the feeling of latching on to Hulk Hogan. Now, Hulk Hogan did come back during the Attitude Era to WWE. He brought the Hollywood Hogan persona that he had in WCW over to mainstream WWE, where he had like this big feud with The Rock. And that big feud culminated in him basically falling back into the Hulk Hogan orange and red, the Python's brother persona, and not the bad boy persona that he basically rocked when he was in WCW. And that was fine. Those matches were okay, even if I felt as though Hulk Hogan himself was a little bit stiff. Because at the end of the day, Hulk Hogan's one move is the leg drop. He was literally like 3 moves away from being another time variant of Goldberg, or shit, Goldberg being a time variant of him that was just like, fuck it, I'm not going to learn any wrestling moves in any way, shape, or form. I'm just going to come out here and do stuff and be gassed in like 5 minutes. But Hulk Hogan stopped on Logan Paul's podcast, and we're going to play exactly what Hulk Hogan said. All right?
Real life with WWE life into a person that is loved by all when he's not been able to do that outside of the ring. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I love him,
For instance, if
but I'm in the fucking minority.
That's the 5%.
There's a couple more over there.
It's
My mom.
oh, that's mama.
Yeah,
She goes,
gosh, hi.
she loves me as far as I know.
Yeah, no, but it's the wrestling fans are very forgiving. If Chris Benoit can do the crap he did and the fans still love him, they're very forgiving. I've made some major mistakes in my personal life, and they're very, very forgiving. But they forgive you. But a situation like this with him. For instance, if I just wound to open Monday Night Raw and all of a sudden Brock Lesnar's music started, and Brock Lesnar's going to be a babyface too.
Yeah.
Let's just
I feel as though there is a fundamental misunderstanding. Here's the thing. Are there some fans in wrestling today that still love Chris Benoit? Yes. Are there still fans in wrestling today that still love Hulk Hogan? Yes. However, I feel as though him trying to compare his just deplorable private life to what happened with Chris Benoit is fucking ghoulish. And what I mean by that is wrestling fans have come to an understanding that there were many factors that led to the situation with Chris Benoit. Is there always going to be a part of you that's going to, like, you remember when you were a kid and you were playing with like your cousins and you hit your cousin with like the crippler crossface? Sure. But you have to understand that in regards to Chris Benoit, we had the steroids abuse and we had the multiple concussions that turned his brain into just a shriveled pear that led to the horrific thing that he did. And the steps that the WWE basically took, which was banning his name and his music and his images, and deciding not to put him in the Wrestling Hall of Fame, and basically forgetting about him and moving on, was the right thing to do, because there's no way you could celebrate somebody that did something so monstrous. So I feel as though wrestling fans have made like this great one to one in regards to Benoit, which is they remember him fondly, but the reason why he's not brought up and constantly pushed to the forefront by the fans is because they also remember that he did something truly fucking gruesome. In regards to Hulk Hogan, you've been a piece of shit your whole life. You've been a piece of shit behind the scenes. Jesse Ventura will come out and say something along those lines. Big Papa Pump will come out and say something along those lines as well. People who worked with you in your heyday have come out and said that you're a piece of shit. And as a wrestling fan, you sat down and you listened to all of these other wrestlers that have basically come out and said the exact same thing about the fact that Hulk Hogan is one of the biggest egotistical douchebag pieces of shit that they've ever had to fucking work with consistently. Every single time his name is brought up in any type of fucking conversation, you will rarely ever find someone that says that, oh yeah, I loved working with Hulk Hogan. And as a fan growing up, there were blinders around Hulk Hogan. And what we didn't realize back then is that the blinders themselves were put there by Hulk Hogan himself to separate the private man who was garbage from the wrestling icon God who could do no wrong. Completely crippled WCW. Horrible storylines, horrible business decisions, completely fucked it up. Came back to the WWE and started trying to do the same thing again, pushing himself to basically be the unbeatable, unstoppable old man champion while moving all of these other guys who basically stuck the company and who were coming up through the company out of the way to make himself that guy. There was a little bit of a scare um earlier this year in regards to The Rock when he came back and just completely fucked up the Cody Rhodes Roman Reigns thing that was going on. Hulk Hogan was doing that every single fucking Monday Night Raw when he originally came back from WWE, trying to push his identity into the main space to be the main guy, even though at that point in time you had multiple main guys. You had Stone Cold, you had Shawn Michaels, you had Triple H, you had The Rock, you had at that point in time you also had Chris Benoit, all of Kurt Angle, all of these great wrestlers who were the main event, and Hulk Hogan being this guy past his prime who left the company because he couldn't they wouldn't allow him to play with the ball that doesn't belong with him the way in which he wanted. So he went up to WCW to basically exact that creative control and ended up nosediving that entire fucking company. But then you had the private life of Hulk Hogan once he left that second time. Hogan Knows Best come out into the forefront, where there were the allegations and the pictures and the videos of him cheating on his wife. And then of course there was the infamous fucking voicemail that he left his daughter about her dating some random fucking black guy. I think they went out on like 2 dates and he lost his shit talking about how she's gonna be raped by a gang of N-words, and you know how these black men are, and blah blah blah, and all this fucking garbage and bullshit. And mind you, during this time, his daughter was also having like a really, really nice rise. She was doing music, she was doing the WWE Diva stuff. She was testing the waters, I think like TNA at the time. She was about to drop like another album. 20 end of 2015, she releases like a poem and a statement defending what her father essentially said. Her career officially ended in 2016. She's done absolutely nothing since then. No modeling, no musics, no TNA, no WWE, not even the show that she wanted to do with I don't know if it got a podcast, but I do know that she wanted to do a show with daughters of famous wrestlers who watched their dads in the business. All of that died. Everything attached to Hulk Hogan's private life implosion died. Anyone who attempted to save him was crippled. Why? Because he's radioactive. He always has been radioactive. Him showing up at the political event thing doesn't shock me because he's always been that way. He's always been over the top. It's another way for him to sell the Hulkamania fucking persona. But for him to come out and say that, oh well, you know, the wrestling fans are gonna forgive me and they're gonna love me because you know they still love Chris Benoit and look what Chris Benoit did is fucking ghoulish. It is literally up there with some of the most disgusting shit that Hulk Hogan has ever come out of his fucking mouth and said. The moment those words left his fucking lips, I kind of wish that Bret the Hitman Hart would have just, or Sting, somebody would have just walked in through that back door and drop kicked him in the back of his fucking head. Because once again, it's Hulk Hogan thinking that he's bigger than life. He's not. Like, wrestling has moved so far beyond Hulk Hogan that now if you to bring him back, it would be so fucking bizarre. It'd be so weird to see him just interacting with today's fans who know of him but don't know of him. I didn't want to rant about this shit, but I just thought that like this episode of Impaulsive, just like, oh boy, that statement alone. There are other things to talk about, like in regards to this episode, but that statement alone just instantaneously pissed me off something fierce. And boy, Hulk Hogan is just one of those people that I really wish he'd just like slide into a retirement home somewhere, like a lot of the retired wrestlers have, which is the failure to unionize by the wrestlers has really fucked a lot of old school wrestlers, something that Hulk Hogan didn't give a shit about because he was making his money, so he didn't really care whether or not the wrestlers beside him made money. But he needs to slide into one of those retirement homes the same way a lot of those wrestlers did and just fade out of the public consciousness, because there won't be a comeback. There won't be a induction into the Wrestling Hall of Fame. There won't be Hulk Hogan popping up in the ring to introduce somebody to WWE on either SmackDown or Raw or shit, even NXT. That's done. That is over. The same way in which WWE acknowledged the fact that there were so many factors that went wrong with Chris Benoit and distanced themselves from Chris Benoit is the exact same way the WWE looked at Hulk Hogan and went, this guy is a fucking mess professionally. He is an absolute fucking mess privately. And if we ever bring him back to the WWE, he would be this corrosive fucking poison like a xenomorph that would just eat through and destroy everything.